Hey guys, thanks for tuning in today. Today we have an exciting guest, Lisa Wright, with the Wright approach. And I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is because I want you to listen. It's awesome because it's going to help kids out. So if you're a parent that's got a troubled kid with something, I'm not going to tell you what it is, then she'll be able to help you. So stay tuned. All right, guys. Hey, welcome back. Okay, so I'm going to bring in Lisa Wright with the Wright approach. And Lisa, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So brought you on the show because we have the master networks that we do together. And I find what you do very interesting. And it's awesome because of all the testimonies of the parents that I hear about you help. And so I think it's really powerful. And so what I want you to do is kind of tell people your story and why you became what you are.
Mm-hmm.
So then that way people will know. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take me out and put you on full screen so you can tell your story.
Yeah, I am a private dyslexia therapist and ADHD life coach. For the last 20 plus years, I've been in education, elementary education. I taught first, second, and third grade, and then got into dyslexia therapy. And I am dyslexic. I am ADHD. And I think it wasn't until I became a therapist that I really took ownership or maybe felt an appreciation for my learning difference and being able to communicate with the students that I work with and really relate to them and help them advocate for themselves. And I think that's one of the things that I want to bring to my private practice is let these kids know, like, you have some amazing talents and strengths, and having dyslexia or ADHD doesn't have to be a curse. There's actually some pretty awesome qualities to being this like brain. There are some big picture thinkers out there with the dyslexia. And so I really want them to learn how to advocate for themselves, but to really gain some confidence in what they can do and not be, feeling that they are less than or not have the confidence to go out and try new things.
Okay, great. So what I wish that I had you whenever I was younger because I in fact have all the above. So it would make my life a lot easier.
And a lot of entrepreneurs are dyslexic. A lot of entrepreneurs are ADHD thinkers. It's just we have that ability to think big picture and dream big and have these great ideas. And so a lot of entrepreneurs.
Right.
It makes
What,
sense.
yeah. How early can parents detect a kid with ADHD or dyslexia or whatever?
As early as pre-K or kindergarten, especially if there is a family history. If anyone in the family has had any kind of a learning difference, maybe there's been some speech in the family, or the parents, at the time maybe weren't diagnosed because maybe they didn't really understand, or the school didn't know or have the information, but they just really struggled in school. Like, reading was really hard for me, or I just never really liked opening up the book. I just would rather somebody read it to me instead. That's kind of an indication, when you've got your little guy there sitting and you're like, let's read this book together. And they're like, they have no interest in it, or they would rather you read it. No, mommy, you read it. Then that's kind of an indicator there, because most kids, when they see books, or they see their brothers or sisters that are older doing, opening up the book and enjoying it. And, they want to do the same thing. So most kids are really excited to learn how to read. But then if you've got a little guy that's just like, I'm not interested, that's kind of something to be, just, put on the radar a little bit.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I know. With me, it's funny because I have to read a book sometimes twice
Mm-hmm.
in order to pick up. And if whenever I read a book, you'll notice all the pages have scribble marks in them, because as soon as my brain thinks, oh, this, I write it down, and then I reread it because I feel like it's important, and then I get something else out of it, which is
Yeah.
awesome. But
Yeah.
it takes me a little bit in order to comprehend exactly what the author is trying to say.
Well, and especially if you have an ADHD brain. So your brain is, like that Ferrari race car, and trying to sustain your attention on reading something. And then your mind kind of drifts off and you're like, well, wait a second, what did I just read? And then you got to go back and reread it. But then if you're the dyslexic reader, where it's like, okay, I get to a word that I don't know, I got to break it all down and figure out, well, what does that word say? And then because you've taken all that time to break it down, put it back together, then you got to go back and reread, because like, how is it in the context of what I'm reading? So there's a lot of breakdown and putting back together, and then you lose the comprehension.
Okay. What when you were a teacher, what did you see a lot of kids getting taken care of that had dyslexia and ADHD, or were they just not aware of it?
Mm-hmm. I think, as a classroom teacher, there are a lot of great measures in place that the state says, in kindergarten and first grade, everybody is screened for dyslexia, to provide early intervention, to go ahead and get those students who might be at risk some type of intervention. And I think, in schools, sometimes you're in a big classroom of 20 kids, and maybe it's hard to notice certain kids because maybe they are pretty smart, and they've figured out some coping skills, until they kind of get to a point where like they hit a wall, and it's just like they're having a really hard time, but they've been able to figure out something until then. But just being able to provide some kind of awareness for teachers as well, to really understand what are some telltale signs. The myth has always been that they reverse their letters backwards, B's and D's, P's and Q's, and that is true, because only the shapes of the letters are so similar. But it's not that that's the only indicator of somebody with dyslexia.
Okay. So I just, whenever, as you were talking, I was thinking about, you're talking about teachers and stuff like that. What about kids that are homeschooled, that
Mm-hmm.
maybe the parents aren't, not, I'm not saying they're not qualified, but they just don't know what
Right.
to look for? I would think that your services would be super beneficial for parents that are homeschooling their children, and would probably make it easier for them to teach their kids as well, right? I mean,
Yeah.
whenever you can diagnose it and get some parameters put in place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you raise your children, like you as a parent know your child the best. I've had moms that say, well, I've just down the road, I've always had this feeling something wasn't quite right, and always go with your mother's intuition, right? You know your child the best. And if you are working with your child one-on-one at home as a homeschool type scenario, and despite all the things that you've tried, and there still is kind of a struggle there, then that would be something to, hey, let's go out and find somebody who is trained in dyslexia or learning differences to help out. There are some great tools out there for homeschool parents to use with teaching dyslexia, but as a therapist, I've been trained in specifically in dyslexia. Dyslexia is that neurological condition. It's just the way that the brain is wired. And so by putting in a curriculum that is systematic, it's sequential, it is therapeutic. We're retraining the brain and making stronger brain connections with rewiring, with what we do with a lot of repetition. And some homeschool curriculum doesn't necessarily have that. So, as a dyslexia therapist, I tell my parents it is a slow drip. It's not something that happens overnight. It's a lot of repetition. But I am specifically trained in that. So I, work alongside homeschool families and helping them be more or less like the reading teacher side of the curriculum, right? Where I do the reading part of it, but the parent does more of the enrichment, like doing rich language vocabulary and reading rich literature books. So I work tandem with the parents, just really providing more of that therapeutic that, if that parent's not specifically trained in, then I offer that for them.
Okay, awesome. So what is like a timeline that you start to really see results? Because I know, like, the people I talk to that their kids have went to you and they see all these awesome results. I really don't know how long they've been going to you. So
Mm-hmm.
how I guess how long does it take to see your kid get some difference?
Mm-hmm. For someone who is in a dyslexia program, it's about a 2 to 3 year program that they are in. Like I said, it's a slow drip, it's a systematic, sequential um, therapy process. But the immediate confidence is awesome. The immediate, when I have a little guy the other day, he was like, well, can I usually read to the kids, the last 5 minutes because I'm building that vocabulary, giving them that oral, language experience. And he's like, well, can I read to you this time? I want to share with you one of my favorite books. I'm like, yes, of course. Like, and I loved it. Like, he was so, just happy to share with me. He was confident doing it. And I think that that's what really you start to see right away. I've also had a mom say to me, well, she hated reading her books at night. We have to do our 20 minutes every night. And, this time she came to me saying, like, hey, I'm ready to read. Can you sit down and read with me? And I find that just very invaluable. So it is a long process. However, when they start to see, it clicking, then their confidence goes right along with it. And I think that's just the joy of what I do. That's the part that I love the most. So,
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really cool. I would say that what you do too would definitely, I could have used it for test taking,
mm-hmm,
and that would have helped tremendously, just reading the question. And I
mm-hmm,
think that, if you start early enough, then that way it prepares them for later on in your junior high, high school, whenever you're wanting to prepare for college or whatever. So I think that's super, super valuable
yeah,
to start at a younger age.
yeah.
Um, can someone start in their teens? Like,
Yeah.
say, okay.
Yeah.
It-
Yeah. I mean, because like I said, as a dyslexic learner, we got some street smarts, right? We've got some grit, we've got some perseverance, we've figured out some coping skills. And when there is a student who maybe is in their teens or in high school, and it's like they've kind of just hit the wall where like the learning is getting harder, the reading is getting harder, and it's to the point where they're like, something's not quite right, and again, maybe mom or dad have been like, well, we kind of weren't sure along the way, but he just was doing okay, and then sometimes it's the student that's like, okay, it's too hard. I need some help, and at that point, absolutely work with a teenager and a high schooler and, tailor something specific to his age, his cognitive ability. Certainly wouldn't start with apple, ab, bat, buh, but
yeah.
do something a little bit more accelerated that would be appropriate for that age group for sure.
Okay. Cool. So I'm gonna, is there any tips or tricks that you could maybe share with the audience that, just to kind of, maybe tell them?
Yeah. A fun thing to do with like your little guys, your kindergartners or your preschoolers, is just find some rhyming books and just sit with them and rhyme with them and open up the book and see if they kind of catch on, as you're reading the book out loud to them. And, maybe the line ends out, the last line is hat, and then they kind of figure out, oh, the next line is bat, and they can pick up the rhyming that's happening within the book. That's just kind of a fun way. Or, maybe you're bored in the car and you're at the stoplight, and just kind of playing some word games as far as like, I'm thinking of a word that might rhyme with bat. What can you think of? Oh, hat. Great idea. And they can be made up words. That's okay, as long as they hear that there's some kind of a rhyme there. But another thing is just another word game is like, I wonder what, if I had cup and I took away that k sound, what could be left? Oh, up. All right. Or, I'm thinking of a word and it sounds like this. K, what word does that sound like to you? And have them put that together. Oh, cup. Yeah, you're right. So just fun little word games like that, are some great ways to really work on that that phonics, that phonological awareness that is part of the deficit with dyslexia.
Okay, great. So, how can people get a hold of you? Because that's one of the most important things, right? You gotta get a hold of Lisa so you can fix these kids.
Well, they're not broken.
Well,
We don't
that's
need to
true.
fix
That's true.
them. We're just going to enhance them. But no, they certainly can reach out to me through my website at thewrightapproach.org, or they can email me, Lisa at thewrightapproach.org. And I'd be happy to talk with anybody, that is looking for some guidance. Also, maybe they've got some questions at school. The parent is having to go into an ARD meeting or a 504 meeting, which is the committee meeting to create a game plan to provide support for their child. And they're just needing some understanding of the laws, or how does the meeting go, or what does all this mean, and all of that. Then I certainly can help the parents in that way as well.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, thanks for coming on the show today, Lisa. I really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
this is
And
great.
I'm excited that you're gonna help all these little kids.
Yeah,
That's awesome, and big kids too. I might because I need your help too.
with
So,
kids too. I love them. I love
but
them.
I just want to say thanks again, and I appreciate it. And
Yeah.
hope y'all have a good weekend.
Yes, thanks so much. You too.
All right, bye.
Okay, bye.